Hi everyone, going to do another halogen oven dinner tonight, and we're going to take it from this book here. This is the Family Meals for a Fiver book, and the one we're going to do is this classic lasagna. Now we're going to do it obviously in the halogen oven. Alright, so it's a bit of a change from how it would be cooked in this book because we're going to do it our own way. Alright, so without further ado really, I'm going to pass you over to Jan who's going to take you through it.
We're going to cook our lasagna in the halogen oven, and I'm going to tell you how I achieve that. You can cook it normally in a normal conventional oven. It's quite straightforward. So when you've made your lasagna, in order to cook it in the halogen oven, you need to have some tin foil handy. Pop the tin foil around it, or you've made your lasagna, pop the tin foil around it all, and then pop it in the halogen oven for about 30 minutes. Take the tin foil off the top, sprinkle your cheese on or extra cheese on, whatever it is that you want to do, and then allow the element to bear down on it, and it will cook and it will give you this lovely lasagna. I'm going to show you a recipe in a minute of how I did mine. Of course you can still just use your sauce that you can get in the jars, and you build bechamel sauce in the jars, and you don't have to go through the whole process that I've gone through in order to make them. But this is how I go about making it, using this standard recipe in the classic lasagna. Now you can see here it says a quantity of bolognese sauce and all of the ingredients, the lasagna and the bechamel sauce. Now the wonder of this book is that I really like is it tells you how to make the bolognese sauce. So I'm going to move to that page now because it's the first thing that we need to do, is make the bolognese sauce. So you can see the ingredients we need there: the olive oil, the onion, the garlic, the minced beef, puree, beef stock, canned tomatoes, mushrooms, Worcester sauce and ground black pepper. I don't add salt, there's enough salt in the stock as far as I'm concerned, so I'm trying to be careful on salt in my diet. So the first thing it says to do is to heat the oil in the pan and add the onions, cook them for about 10 minutes until they're soft. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Okay, so what we've done there is we've softened the onion, we're now adding the crushed garlic, and then we cook for a further minutes, and then we add our mince and brown it off. Okay, these come in 500 grams, it says 450, we're not going to worry about that. And what you're doing there is you're mixing in your onion and your garlic into your mince, and you want to get it nice and brown. Right, in the book you'll see it says stir the meat and cook, and then put in the tomato puree. Come to this out and have a look. What I'm going to do here, it's all brown, but can you see all that yucky horrible animal fat sitting in there? I'm going to drain that off. Honestly, it's worth the extra couple of minutes to get rid of that fat. So now we're adding our 2 tablespoons of tomato puree, and our stock's ready there, just a North stock cube. There's all that nasty fat off of the mince, well worth the effort. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of puree. So the puree's in there, the stock cube, but we've got to bring it back to the boil. We need to cover it and bring it back to the boil before we add our other ingredients. Okay, going well. So we brought it back to the boil. Now we add our tomatoes, our chopped tomatoes, and our mushrooms. And we season with the black pepper, and we add our Worcester sauce, and then we cover it over. That's looking good. Just need to add my Worcester sauce now. We cover it over and then we let it simmer for 20 minutes. So while that's cooking for 20 minutes, simmering, just have a look here. You can use this as a base for cottage pie, lasagna, chili con carne. You can store in your fridge or in the freezer, freezed in small quantities. But while that's doing, I'm going to go back to this here, and I'm now going to make the bechamel sauce. Okie dokie, right, we're going to make the bechamel sauce, and we're going to put the milk, peppercorns, the 6 of them, mace and bay leaf. I use mace like this, I haven't got a mace leaf. I've already popped them all in there ready to go. You pop them on here and almost bring it to the boil, and then you need to put the lid on it and set it aside for 20 minutes. Alright, it's almost to the boil, so get it off there quickly. I nearly went too far then, and what we do is let that infuse. So turn the gas off, cover it over, and that's got to be left for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, I can check on my mince to see how that's looking. Coming along nicely there. Give it a little stir. That's looking good. Right, the butter's melted. We're going to stir in the flour. Okay, we'll do that for about a minute. So you keep it on the heat for a minute. Alright, and now what we're going to do is we've got to get this into here. They say to have a whisk, but if you stir in a little bit at a time, it shouldn't go lump in. It gradually begins to go into a mix. Now it leaves me to put the seasoning in, which is the black pepper and the nutmeg. Nutmeg's the key to this one, tasting awesome. Then you return it to your heat, stirring all of the time until it thickens. And then you let it simmer gently for 2 minutes. Right, you can see that's beginning to thicken nicely, no lumps. The key to this one is not to walk off and do something else. Keep stirring until it comes back to the boil. You might also, after this, want to just check that your mince is flavoured how you want it. You might want to add a little bit more seasoning, so that's down to your personal taste. Right, well, this is looking good. If you like to look in there, that is perfect. And we know that our mince is cooked beautifully. There it is there, all ready to go. So now, in a normal oven, they'd say preheat it to 180 degrees and then you spoon it out, which I'm going to show you how to do. So I'm preheating the halogen oven to 180 degrees. Logic says it should work just the same. So now we need to get that into the tray. So we spoon a layer of this in to our dish. Now I've actually gone out and I bought these dishes specially for the halogen oven. They're Pyrex and they're nice and they actually fit in, and that'll do an ideal lasagna for the two of us. So do check that your dish does actually fit. So you're layering that in there, and then you're going to layer your pasta sheet over. Now I don't know what your pasta sheets are like. I mean, I like it to go right up to the edge, so I'm going to attempt to cut down there now to layer it in, which I've had a little go at because I like the pasta to go all the way over to the edge. Okay, now we're going to layer this sauce over. It will all get mixed in, but that's the idea of lasagna. It's looking good. So as with any lasagna, you repeat the layers twice more. So here we go. I'm doing it like this. I'm not putting quite as much of the gravy sauce in this time. So I'm using the strainer. And then we layer on top. I'm going to cut this down. Right, last layer of this going over. So there's 3 layers there. So cover it with that. And then you need to sprinkle on your Parmesan cheese onto the top of there. Put that over there like that. And then we're getting ready to sprinkle our Parmesan cheese on. Sprinkling our Parmesan on top of there, and then that would go normally in a conventional oven, that would just go in. However, this is where I'm going to alter things slightly for this. I'm going to cover this so this doesn't burn at the moment because of the heat bearing down, and I think it will probably burn the top, and then I'm going to uncover it when I want to brown it off in a minute. Right. The hardest thing with the halogen oven that I find is because the heat bears down on it, everything on the top can possibly get overdone. So I've covered it in foil because they do recommend that in the halogen cookery book. The hardest part will be trying to get the foil round. You don't want it floating, otherwise it will float up and get caught on your element. So make sure it's tucked under, and bearing in mind how hot the Pyrex dish is, be very, very careful. So that's now in there. I haven't got it on a stand, I've got it straight on the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to put this back on at 180, and then about half an hour in I'm going to take the foil off so that the top does, all the cheese does bubble and crisp up and go lovely. So we'll see whether this works. I could leave the foil off and put the distancer in there, the spacer, but then it's too far away from the lasagna. So I'm trying it this way today. We're going to see if that's successful. Righty-ho. 35 minutes in, it's been covered, 180 degrees, 35 minutes in. I'm going to remove the foil in order for the cheese on top to go a nice golden brown. I'm not even going to attempt to get this out because getting my hands in I'm going to end up getting burnt. I'm actually going to cut the foil away and then tuck it underneath. This is the downside to this. Right, I've undone the foil. I'm going to tuck it under, otherwise it will spin up into the element. Now this is where the foil touched, which is a shame, but no big deal because it will taste gorgeous, I'm sure. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more on, just so that we really make sure we get that crispy finish. And now I'm just going to put the halogen lid back on and let it bear down on it. And for another 15 minutes. Okay, so we've cooked our lasagna and now we're just going to cut it and put it onto our plate and serve with some lovely garlic bread. What I prefer to do when I make my lasagna is not put the Parmesan cheese straight on. I like this cheese here. It's sweet and nutty with a firm texture from Sainsbury's. And I grate it and I put this on top of the lasagna and then I cook it, and then you can sprinkle your Parmesan on afterwards. Sometimes there's a tendency for it to go a bit hard as opposed to nice and bubbly and cheesy. So that's why I grate it. So this is just an alternative to the recipe. Righty-ho, so here you are with the different cheese on top. You get more of a golden effect. This is more the effect that I do like, and you can still sprinkle your Parmesan on top afterwards. So, as I say, there's two ways. It's just a twist from the recipe. The first recipe showed you just putting the Parmesan on and you saw the effect. This one, the same thing, cooked in the halogen oven, same recipe, but with the different cheese on top. So, that's what we prefer, but try and find out yourselves.
Well, there we are. Lovely lasagna, and all done in the old halogen oven, and what can I say, fantastic. All of our videos, you know where to go, usual place, you know, Derriton33.co.uk, and there's tons more recipes there, all done with the halogen oven. So without further ado, thanks very much for watching. Time for me to get stuck in. Wow.